Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I am your intrepid host, Mr. David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers. And I haven't done an Earth Wobble update in a while because the skies haven't been clear enough for me to do any kind of good observations of where the stars and everything are in relationship to where the planet is. Okay, so it's been several months since I've done an Earth Wobble update. We got a fairly clear night tonight. This being, let's see, it's Sunday morning, 3:54 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Just October I guess today would be the 7th. So blessings and honor to every one of you. I send my love and honor and respect to all of you, and thank you very much. Now, as a point of reference, um, my house here, in my previous videos, I've discussed Wade. Well, my goodness gracious. What's up, my brother, as well? Back to you. I hope you have been doing well up there in Canada land, Kanuki land. I love you, my brother. Hope you've been doing well. I thought about you the other day, and I was like, I haven't seen Wade around lately, and here you pop up here. So it's good to see you. But let me get this information out of my head while I'm still cognizant. It being almost 4 o'clock in the morning here. I just came in from outside. And so it's October and wonderful time to be viewing the Pleiades and the other celestial constellations coming up in the late night, early morning here in the south. And so last couple of nights I went out and I could see Pleiades all right. And I'm trying to remember it looks like an A on its side. So there's Pleiades, and then there's this one, and then there's Orion. And I'll get the name of another one. I want to say it's Aquila or Aquila or something. Or anyway, enough of the names. So, but they're always in the same order. Pleiades, the little cup, the A on its side, and then Orion. Well, now my property, when you go up my driveway, it's facing almost exactly due east. I mean, it's like 3 degrees off of east. So when I go out with the compass and everything, I don't have to worry about where do I look to find east. All I have to do is look up my driveway and I'm facing east. Well, so last year when Orion and everything came up and I was watching it, keeping an eye on things, there were those few times when Orion was just not in the right spot. So when I go out to my spot in the yard out here in the field, same spot I've been going to for the last 35 years, I look up in the sky and there's Pleiades, and I look over, there's the A, and then I look over even further and I'm like, but wait a minute, Orion's on the wrong spot, too far to the southwest. Southeast. So when I'm looking up the driveway looking for Orion, and I mean, for many years I go out there and it's lined up with my driveway. It comes up in the east this time of the year and it's right on my driveway. It ain't nowhere near my driveway right now. My driveway's here and Orion's way over here. It's to the southeast. I said southwest, my bad. But to the southeast, without a doubt. And it's like, it's not just 5 or 10 degrees off. It's a good 15 or 20 degrees. Now, I'll be checking it here in the next several days, as long as as long as the sky is clear enough for me to see the stars. But I've noticed that I believe it's Saturn. And I've discussed how I sit here and look out the window all the time, and I can see where the planets or the stars are. And at my sitting here in this chair and looking out this window, my house don't move, but at least not not that I'm aware of. Nobody's come by and picked it up recently, So I'm assuming that the planet is moving. Okay. Now I seriously doubt that all the stars are. Now there have been some remarks by some other people who are saying that they think that Orion looks different. The whole constellation of Orion looks different this year. It looks closer, they're saying. And I got to admit, it seems a little out of whack. But one thing is absolutely, definitely different right this minute is that Orion is in the southeast from my location. It's way off. Now, that would mean that the Earth has tilted up in order for Orion to be down towards the south. So I went to check to see what I could find as far as the North Pole, or Polaris, as it's mainly called. And oh, by the way, something about Orion. There are folks going around calling it Orion, and it's like I I have never heard anyone call the constellation of Orion Orion. And I'm sorry, but I've been a junior astronomer, an amateur astronomer for 60 years, or okay, 55 years easy. And I've never heard that constellation ever called Orion. So I'm sorry, I'm gonna go poo poo on some of these new agers. Just because you think that's the way it sounds or that's the way it should be said, please go back in history and check how other people have been saying it for centuries. It's Orion, please, not Orion. Just saying. But anyway, that's just one pet peeve of mine. People are using words now lately and they're changing them all up. And it's like, wait a minute. It's like New York. If they could come up with I don't know. That's a hard one. But Jersey could be Jersey and Florida could be something else. These folks pronounce stuff weird these days. And stuff that we grew up with in the 50s and 60s when we were in school, it was like everybody spoke it the same way. Now people pronounce things just the way the hell they think it ought to be pronounced. Weird. Welcome to the new world. Been working as much as I can lately. Work is scarce here right now. Yeah, actually, it's from what I can tell from around down here, there's a lot of business going on down here in the South, and I can't quite figure out why. Now I do know it's cotton season and all that, and so the cotton industry is full on, and for the next 3 months they're going to be ginning cotton 24/7, and about 6 miles, 7 miles from here. At late at night, I can go out and I can literally hear all the motors and everything. It makes such a noise, even though it's inside a building. I can hear the gins running when the air is right and it's cool enough. But yeah, and I can hear the gins making so much noise in the middle of the night. But anyway, but it seems like there seems to be plenty of jobs around here now. And they're not necessarily the best paying jobs, but there are jobs, which has surprised the crap out of me. So it's like, well, that's good. Um, but we have a very large plant here that kills and processes chickens. I mean, the plant is bigger than the downtown Moultrie area. It's huge. And the amount of business that all these farmers and everything around here do with chicken business, it is a huge business. So there doesn't seem to be too much shortage of jobs, and they're building new building. Excuse me, they're building new buildings. They put in a new supermarket. When I drove into town the other day, they're tearing down all the old buildings in downtown Moultrie as a passing thought here, and they're moving everything out to the bypass in different areas. And so it's like they say, "Woo, come down to historic downtown Moultrie in Colquitt County, Georgia, and see all the historic buildings that they've torn down and turned into parking lots." I'm sorry, but I turned around and looked. Well, wait a minute. Where the pawn shop and where the fish stores, all that's gone. Well, where the other Harveys and something that I went into town for my tags a month ago now, I guess it is, and noticed that two more buildings have been torn down. Flat, there's nothing there. It's just they're gone. Oh, it's an eyesore, and nobody wants to rent the building, and so rather than renovate it or give it to the homeless or something, they tear them down and turn them into parking lots. So downtown Moultrie is a pittance of what it used to be historically. So all this stuff that they try to sell to folks about, ooh, the city of Moultrie, and oh, how lovely it is, and all the old buildings, they've torn most of them down. Shame on them, but I digress. Anyway, back to the weather, back to the stars. So in my checking and everything, and looking at my little winder here, out which is always pointed south mostly. We have the planet hasn't moved that much, but I have noticed that in watching Saturn and I think it's Mars that has been in my little window viewer here. I noticed that like during the month, it'd be bright enough to where Mars would be towards the top of the window, and 3 or 4 days later, Mars would be to the bottom of the window. Now I can accept the moon moving on its own up and down, and which it does through the course of a month. It's a little odd that it will move like from the bottom of the window to the top of the window in less than 2 days because that's a crap load of degrees. But to be able to see Mars and Saturn move as much as, well, I found it the other day. I actually cleaned up my little table here. Shame on me. But I use this protractor here and this string. So when I look out there, I get it, eyeball it level as much as possible. And then I hold the string up to the window, and that gives me a line of sight. So then I look over at the protractor and look down and go, oh, well, that's the degree it is. Ah, I see. There you go. So I can measure fairly accurately with this little plastic, $1 or $2. And this thing is like 30 years old. I've had this thing for so long as a draftsman. I took drafting with pencil and paper and et cetera. But anyway, but this thing here, in fact, I've got it marked off in red right there. So when then I hold it up, those are the degrees I know are like, oh, that's 1 degree. You have to hold it out from the middle. There's a hole right there. And that's where the beginning line is. Anyway, so this is my sophisticated tool. But the thing is it's very accurate. I can get it with 2 or 3 degrees when I hold my hand still. So I can sit here and look out the window and get this thing and line it up with one of the boards in my ceiling right there and to the loft and tell if there's 5. I'll hold it down here. So if it's right up here, I can tell if it's down this way. So this is 1 degree, there's another one, and there's another one. So it's easy for me to tell what degree it is, all right? And it's a simple thing for you to do. But you have to pick a point, like the window in the house or something like that, that's always stationary. And you have to pick a point, like where my chair is just a couple of inches to the same point every day, all the time. And I've noticed that if I lean back a little bit or lean forward, I can change the angle slightly. But I'm normally sitting in the same position. And so in that way, I can use my little protractor device and this simple piece of string and tell if the angle of the planets are changing in relationship to my house, which doesn't get up and move on a regular basis. Lately, I've been wondering, there's been some time shifts. And I mean, I have discussed this over the last several weeks, and there's been some strange weirdness going on in the time relativity thing. I mean, some serious, like, look out the window and there's like fuzzy things walking through your yard. When I'm sitting here in the house, I've got about 1.5 acres, 2 acres of field. And so close to me, between the house and just past where my truck is parked, is about 25 feet. And there's a row of trees there. And on the other side of that row of trees is the rest of the field, which is, I don't know, 7,500 feet up there until the trees come back. So whatever was going on was between between the house and that first row of trees. And it was like all this kind of fuzzy weirdness going on, but I could see beyond the trees out to the field, and it was like clear. And I sat here and I rubbed my eyes like, no, I'm not stoned, haven't been drinking anything but coffee today, let me look out that window again. And sure enough, between the house and that first line of trees, really strange objects going on, but perfectly clear up the hill further, nothing there. Clear up, cloud, nothing, no clouds in the sky, nothing, but very strange. And then, as I'm sitting here, I'm trying like to ignore it. Maybe I'll look back, and I'll look over there again to see if I'm imagining this because it's really strange stuff. But nope, then it would, I don't know, maybe after 30 minutes it went away. Whatever that disturbance was went away. And so these last several days, I've noticed when I look out the window, I don't have any neighbors. They're like a half a mile away, and it's got to be the dead of winter with no leaves on the trees. But when I look out the windows out there, there are no lights. Not supposed to be any lights. And lately, I've been looking out there, and there are lights in my yard. So I think, okay, they must be fireflies, which is normal around here. Only thing is that I haven't seen any fireflies in almost a month now. It's like they shut off. Don't know where they went, but they quit. And usually I can see them in the woods and up in the trees. No, they're not fireflies. So whatever is shiny and flashing by, and it's not really out of the corner of my eye like some of the things I can say. Well, that was in the periphery, my peripheral vision here. And well, I don't know about that. That's probably just some flaky thing, old hippie stuff, But when you see it, like over here, meaning halfway, if this is 90 degrees, you're looking at 30, 40 degrees off your shoulder. It's like right there. That's different. That's not out of the corner of my eye. And so little blippy things, nothing scary. If anything, they look more like sprites, if you will. And I've been in the deep woods and I have seen sprites, and they are absolutely phenomenally amazing things to see and witness. So they're almost sprite-like, but they haven't hung around long enough for me to like get a really good detail other than what I'm describing to you now. So here this fall, there's been some strangeness going on. And I did a video earlier today, just got on for a little bit, ended up an hour. I love you all very much. I do. Thank you very much. But so in my observations of today, I'm looking out the window, checking the stars, where's the sun setting, blah, 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 blah. And then I start noticing that, the stars really are not where they're supposed to be. When I go out to my favorite spot out in the yard, which is just varies a couple of feet because there's an ant pile out there. I know where I'm standing. I avoid the ant pile. Fire ants down here in the south are still nasty, by the way. So last thing you want to do is stand in the middle of an ant pile when you walk out there in the middle of the night, right? Oops, ant pile. So anyway, I always try to pick the same place to know where I'm not standing in an ant pile. That's how I know when I look up my driveway and Orion's not there. It's sitting way over here to my right, which is too far south of east. Something's up. I'm just saying. So then I went looking for the North Pole. I went looking for Polaris. And there's I'm going to go back out here and check, but Polaris is way too high in the sky. I mean, from my location in South Georgia, which I've told folks before, I'm about 50 miles from the Florida line, okay, as the crow flies. So here I sit almost in northern Florida. And so where I'm at, the North Polaris should be lower in the sky. I've discussed this before. However, it makes sense when I look at where Orion is. Orion, don't get me started again. But then the next thing I check is, okay, where is it in relationship to the North Pole? Go check my North Pole reference. Guess what? Orion's too far to the south and east. Well, east, it's too far south. And the North Pole, guess what? It's too high in the sky by about the same degree. Now, that's the observation today. Now, I haven't been able to make these kind of accurate measurements here lately because it's been too cloudy at night to be able to see the stars accurately. Down here in South Georgia, in August and early September, from July through middle of September, it's always too muggy and there's too much humidity. You can't see the stars clear for squat. So it's not until we get our first little cool spell, and it is just now, it might be 70 degrees outside, which is like the lowest it's been all year. I mean, this October, September, this fall, there you go. So now it's, I'll go back outside. It's 4:20 almost, about 4:20 for real. No, it's 4:13 almost. I got a bowl sitting here on the side. But anyway, I'm going to go back outside and check it again because I was hoping that there's a little bit of cloud activity up there. I'm going to go back out and check and see if it's still accurate, because I have one out there and I go to the same place, every time I look up the same driveway. I mean, I've lived here for going on 40 years. I should know where everything's at. But for Orion to be moved where it is right now, I'm just curiosity, and I ask other folks, go out and do the observation for yourself. Pick 2 points, and and the best thing you could do would be to pick east as much as you can, and just simply as a reference point. If you live and there's a couple of buildings nearby, then stand in the same place and reference where something's coming up, maybe to somebody's chimney or the roof peak or a big oak tree or something. Use something that's always there, and then pick a spot, same spot, to make the observation from. And then that way you can always tell. Now, if you stand 3 feet to the left or right of where you're supposed to be, you can change your angle. That's why I always make certain that I am standing in the same location and my driveway doesn't move unless the whole planet does. That's kind of sort of where my point is on this. So I still think the Earth is doing this wobble wobble. Here recently, there was a shallow earthquake in Haiti. There's been some big earthquakes, and last week there were some big earthquakes as well. And Mother Earth is still moving around. Now there are still a bunch of people who say, "Oh, Planet X is coming in and Planet blah blah blah." Listen, if you've looked at any of the videos on Cora or the Soho or any of them and have seen them big objects around the sun, if you don't listen, there's so many big objects in our solar system right now, y'all. And if you think that any of them are Planet X and that they're flying through and all this stuff, please, the big the sad news is they're giant spaceships that are bigger than the Earth. Okay, that's plain and simple. Because planets, or if it was Planet X, it wouldn't move this across the screen as quickly as these objects do. Plain and simple. Planet X has come through. Well, it's supposed to be over there and it's been over here. Well, that's the slowest damn planet I've ever seen in my life. And what is happening with the Earth is simple. We are getting extra gamma, delta, A, B, C, and D kind of rays coming out of the solar system, okay, out of the galaxy. We're going through this big, thick patch. The Schumann resonance earlier today was literally off the charts. And I mean for like about 12 hours. And then there was a gap and there was another heavy set. We are getting bombarded by these rays. The Earth is still expanding. The Earth is still settling into this new paradigm. So for folks, I'm trying to tell you, we're going to have some more earthquakes. We're going to have some more storms. Things aren't settled down yet. Okay. The Earth is wobbling like this. Of course she is. Things are starting to thaw on one end of the Earth and things are starting to freeze on the other side of the Earth. Things are shifting. And as the planet rotates, sorry, flat earthers, but got to go with the globe on this one because it's the only thing that makes sense, actually. But as the globe is going goo-goo around like this, we're just wobbling like a top. Seriously. And the wobble's getting a little worse. Now, where it's a little worse right now also because we were at the autumnal equinox. Autumn equinox. Right. I got that right. And so, every time we turn into a season, the Earth is swinging out and around the solar system and doing its thing. And the Earth has a tendency to like readjust itself when it gets into these positions. Plus all the other planets and everything are having their little magnetic electro type interference and interaction with the Earth and the rest of the planets. So, but the Earth is wobbling. It's still on this pretty much about a 20-degree kind of wobble here. I will try to update as much as I can now because as I said, it's clear nights down here in South Georgia, and I can reference where these constellations are. Now, there's no damn way that Orion is the entire constellation moved on its own. So we got to take this with a obvious logic of a Vulcan, if you will, that then it must be the Earth. Okay. So are we supposed to be freaked out about this? Please don't be. What is necessary to understand is, because I've been watching this now. This is going into the fourth year that I've been paying special attention. This is the third year about that I've been making videos on this, and I've reported it in Facebook and stuff. But as far as YouTube videos, and so it's like, so my observations have been at my house from the same location, and my observations of this, and this. Okay, so I'm back at it again this fall. Now that I have stars that I can see and reference. I would encourage you to go out and take a peek at your location and check for yourself, because I'm seriously interested. I mean, um, there were a couple of nights last year and early on this spring, this year in 2018, where I literally, and other people too, we watched the moon from go from here, almost overhead to setting down in the southwest. And everybody within a couple of days were like, did you see the moon the other night? Did you see the, yeah, buddy. So we need to be watching this from other parts of the world, just to kind of verify to each other that, well, we all know, Hawkeye's a little on the weird side. But to the point, though, it's like, I would like to hear, what your 10 cents worth are. Is it coming up in the same place every time? Now, I've pretty much established, along with other science and this and that the moon is wobbling as well. Well, not necessarily wobble, but its orbit is not just around anymore. It's got this weird kind of thing. Well, the moon, the magnetic electro connection between the moon and the Earth, and the moon's been closer. It hasn't wandered off further away from the Earth recently, by the way, which it's supposed to normally do. But the moon has been moving as well. A couple of weeks ago, well, it's been 2 months now. I watch and see, okay, I look up the driveway, I'm looking east, where's the moon? And which way is the face pointing? Is the face pointing up? Is it tilted this way? And I'm here to tell you, there's been a couple of days where in the same night, I watched the moon go from looking this way to looking this way in about 5 hours. And other people remarked about that same time saying, did you see the moon? Did you see the moon, the face on the moon tilt? It was like, yeah, it should sit like this. It's not supposed to rotate during the night. Okay. I'm not supposed to do that. So some odd things are happening with the planets, the moon, and this Earth. Okay. And if you believe in the galactics at all, and I know that some of the downloaded things that I get in pictures and my angel messages and everything, it's been pretty consistent with some other folks. And here recently, they've just been saying, look, there are so many things that could have hit the Earth by now that we have simply not allowed. There are other gamma rays and other delta things and blah, blah, blah that should have wiped us off the face of this Earth already. And they're not, because they are intervening. That's a good thing. Now, do we see them? Sometimes people are taking pictures of some of these really big objects out there in space. Some of them are closer in. Why are we seeing these objects? Because these are the objects these are the good guys. They're trying to shield us from too much weirdness coming from outer space. It's just out there. It happens to be hitting the Earth and the solar system. It's hitting everything in the solar system. So it's not just the Earth. But we need to keep a cool head about this, okay? We need to look at this. Now 3 years ago, tell me, I was freaked out because wasn't nobody talking about it. So now I realize that there is a pattern that has been set up over these last 3 years. And everybody wants to go right back to the Planet X thing. I was on that group, but now with my own observations, I'm sorry, there's probably a planet X, Y, Z, double Q, V. I mean, there are so many exoplanets out there they don't want you to know about that it's like, oh, holy crap. So when the real truth comes out about all these new items in our solar system that can be seen on the different instruments, if you know where to look. And they're showing up every single day. This is not like, oh, well, I don't know. We don't know where. No, there's pictures of these things coming into the solar system, passing by the sun and waving at us as they go by. And the scientists are trying to not freak out the public, because if the public realized, what was that streaky thing that just went by? It was bigger than the Earth, y'all. And do you know how fast it was going? It went out of, you know how many millions of miles that frame is right there? And it went from here to there in that fast. And these things are buzzing around in our solar system all the time. Oh, well, and people are worried about a rock that's the size of, the size of a Volkswagen van or something, Oh my God, it's 2AU from the Earth. Wait a minute. Wait, hang on. 2A, wait a minute. That's the other side of the sun. Well, okay, we mean the moon. Okay. It's gonna pass the Earth on the other side of the moon, 300,000 miles away. But everybody's worried about a bus going by. I'd be more worried about a bus going by on a street corner in New York. You know what I'm saying? But oh my God, there's an asteroid out there the size of a bus. Where is it? It's on the other side of the moon. Oh shit! Come on, guys. When it skims the atmosphere, we need to talk. And they're not talking about those, because they don't want us to know about those. I've seen some of them come in. I've sat right here in this chair and looked out my window and seen these things come streaking through 2 or 3 of the windows, and go, oh, that was a big ass rock. So these people are trying to, I was on board with some of that, because at the time that was the only information, and I wasn't collecting my own information. Well, since I've been collecting my own information and doing my own observations, these are my conclusions. Planet X? Probably. Is it trying to make the Earth blow up and all this stuff? Oh, please. Just let it go. Let it go. Let it go. The Earth is swelling up and things are moving around. That's the honest part and the most logical part. There was 20 volcanoes going at the same time the other day. Major volcanoes, all of them spewing and active. 20. There's some more business going on down in Honduras and Guatemala and Panama and Costa Rica area down there. I've been warning people for years. There's a very good possibility the Pacific is going to bust open into the Caribbean. All right. Fingers crossed, but it keeps happening in some of these locations. And if one of them is big enough and the Earth shifts enough, there's going to, some of those valleys are only like 20, 30 feet above sea level, and they go between 2 volcanoes. So if something erupts big enough and bad enough, and off the coast of the Pacific or in the Caribbean, there's going to be a cut across there very easily. And it could be very damaging to the rest of the world. Now, I was showed this years ago, and I've been like praying against it, nah, but stuff keeps happening. But is it Planet X? No. Sorry. I'm just not on that bandwagon at all. And I would hope that people would say, look, let's hang on. Let's talk to folks like me, people who have made their own observations. And it's like, oh, well, that could be. But listen, Jupiter has that much power. We've just seen it by now. There's not enough evidence. The evidence that I see is evidence that we have giant spaceships in our solar system. I believe that 10 times more than I believe in a Planet X and their moons and stuff. We got other issues between that, okay? Is it affecting this? And I'm sorry. Even the people who really, 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 really believe it, they're seeing other things because what's going on with the Earth doesn't explain what's going on in the solar system. I mean, as far as these planets are concerned. Um, are there exoplanets? You betcha. Are they having an effect with this? You betcha. But is that the reasons for the Earth and all this? No. The Earth is wobbling because it's out of balance. The magma underneath the crust, it's still, guess what? It's shifting and it's moving, and the Earth is wobbling. It's a tire out of balance, as I've been describing for a long time. Please, it is mechanical. There's too much ice on one side, not enough ice on the other. We're whirly twirly going around. Oh, we're supposed to be slowing down as opposed to what? Oh, well, there's something up there and we slowed down by 2 seconds last year. Well, okay. But to the point, though, that's not it. It's all the gamma rays and everything else heating up the inside of the Earth like a baked potato in a microwave. Just keep that in mind. That's what's going on, okay? And the more evidence there is, the more time that goes by, the more I am convinced, yes, yes, yes. A lot of other of us seekers on the side, if you will, we've all been saying the same thing. The evidence is the expanding Earth, not all this other crap, okay? Yes, it's happening, and yes, this is this, and yeah, the weather's changing. Yes, the Stream ain't streaming the way it used to. Look at that big old mess out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Oh my God, that thing should not have been there, number one. Number two, it shouldn't have lasted as long as it has. Number three, it's still basically there's still something out there in the middle of the Atlantic, and if that terrifies me more than Planet X. It's the Gulf Stream. That's the currents on the Earth. Blah, 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 hmm. Woo, planet. Oh, okay, fine. Okay, fine. But here's the thing. All these things have been changed. Now, the Gulf Stream was changed by man, and the weather patterns are being exacerbated by, of course, with all the radar and all these anomalies that are coming out of the Antarctic and Antarctica. When I went to school, it was the Antarctic, Antarctic. I don't know where the Antarctica came in. That's another one of them Mandela things. I mean, there are some maps that say Antarctic, old ones, but when I went to school, it was the Antarctic, not Tika. Anyway, just another one of them woo-woo things. But also, in listening to Cliff High today, for his did a live stream the other day, he was discussing that there's some really good information, woo-woo information about a lot of heavy equipment in the Antarctic right now. A lot of weird stuff, just odd equipment being shipped. And you could, well, I don't know what they're using it for, but what would they need giant tarps for? Of a particular color and density and make. Can you say cover up? Literally? I mean, seriously? What better way to cover up something on the ice out there in the middle of there, instead of trying to blot it out with, Google Earth, or, God knows, a plane flies over, they get snow snow painted tarps and just set them up, and they go work up underneath it. They've been doing that for years as camouflage, out in the desert, they put up something that looks like the desert, it's painted on top to look like the desert. Then all these people can scurry around underneath, and who knows? You can't tell from the air. You really can't tell. Unless, that old Cheech and Chong movie of where they painted this swimming pool, and it was Cheech that, went through it. You could see from the helicopter. That was one of the funniest scenes. But the thing is that's the point. From the air, it looked like a swimming pool. But anyway, so there is a lot of deception going on. I know there has been an abnormal amount of low clouds in the sky down here in the south. I mean, in the daytime, I'll look out my beautiful window there, and the sky will be blue in the early morning. And I'll go like, it's going to be a clear day. 2 hours later, I take a bathroom break and I come back out and I look up out through that same window, and it's like, where'd the blue go? It went from this nice deep cobalt blue to a very almost white kind of blue, very light pale blue. And it's like, but there's no discernible clouds, if you will, and it's like, what the hell's going on here? So it's like, all right. Well, so anyway, we're still in a wobble. And right now we're in a pretty heavy duty wobble. Just doing this number. I would suppose that in these next several months we're going to be doing this, especially until full winter, when the Arctic, meaning North Pole, and everything gets frozen good. Then we'll stable out for a little while, okay? But between now and middle of December, okay, Christmas, until everything gets frozen over good, we're going to be sloshing around a little bit more than usual right now. But that's because the north is starting to freeze and the south is thawing because it's going into summer. And as a supposition, that means there's also going to be more activity going on in the Antarctica right now also. Just FYI, because it's going to be summer there. So some odd things should be showing up soon. Now, it was really odd today. It's like, we've been pushed into this thing with politics and so forth. And for those folks who have been paying attention to the other kind of news, like, when are the arrests going to start and when is all these things going to happen, blah, blah, blah. Well, today, Judge Kavanaugh, like him or not, was signed in. He was sworn in, signed in. Now he's part of the justice system. He starts work on Tuesday. He's already part of the D.C. circuit. He already knows the law. So if there's going to be, and I know these folks have been waiting on that seat to be filled. So it's going to be very interesting to see if the underground news is anywhere near to close to that there might be arrests starting now, because now the bench is filled. My fingers are crossed. I got some of my toes crossed. I didn't know I could cross on that one. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see. But galactically, and the messages coming from upstairs is that things are moving. Things are moving along, not quite as fast, but there's all this other chaos going on in this world that we just have to kind of put up with it for the moment. Doesn't mean we have to enjoy it or that we have to get involved in the chaos, but we dang sure got to, put up with letting it go by, So Earth wobble, the moon, we should be in, we should be in new moon right now. Actually, I think I got that right. 24th, 1, 2, or see, last quarter or new moon. Anyway, we're coming into the dark side of the moon. So, in as far as planting and things in agriculture, everything is in our feet. Everything is in the ground. So because the moon is on the opposite side, it's in its going into new moon stage. Anything we do right now is like, just take a chill out for the next couple days. It's new moon. And as soon as we see that first little kiss of the moon coming up in the west at night, we're going to be back on the positive side of things again. So, and that'll be coming up very shortly. So good things coming up. But again, the earth changes are still here, y'all. And we just need to be prepared, I know they did that test the other day with the emergency broadcast system. I know some people got it, some people didn't. I don't have a cell phone, so I didn't get any particular information that I'm aware of. But the fact that they're trying these things out, and we just need to be aware of our surroundings. Yep, Earth is changing. Yep, weather's crazy. Yep, any one of us could get flooded at any particular time. There's a big system that's sitting down off of Honduras, down in the Gulf between Honduras and Cuba. And it's headed north into the Gulf. What it's going to do, where it's going to go, Whether or not it's going to be a big wind event, that's not the issue here anymore. We've been getting monsoon rains when they come in. I realized that we had a rain last week, and I went out and checked the rain gauge. We got 2.5 inches of rain in about 3 hours. Now, if it had rained any more, if the ground hadn't been as dry as it was at that point, we'd been in a flash flood situation because of that much rain in just 3 hours. So, just saying, any one of us anywhere can be flooded at any time. I mean, I've been on mountaintops and mountainsides where it rained so hard it literally the whole mountain started to slide down. So I don't think you're safe from anything anymore. But we just need to prepare. Okay. If you don't know where there is a safe location to get close to the ground or in the ground or something like that, rather than being off the ground like a 2-story house or or a trailer or whatever. And I lived in Florida and I lived in a bunch of trailers. And if those trailers are tied down, they're just as strong as, if not better than, some stick built houses, by the way. Um, Concrete block houses and brick homes have a tendency to last better, not necessarily the roofs, by the way, but to the walls and whatever. So anytime in a storm, always go to an inside wall. Stay away from any type of glass or anything like that. Always get pillows or whatever to shield yourself with for any kind of flying objects. If you got a baby crib or something like that, or a small mattress or camping mattress or something, even those little mats that you lay on for when you those exercise mats, those make really good covers when shit's flying around in a storm. I've been in the Bitterroot Mountains in Montana when there was some nasty weather came through, and I'm here to tell you, if it hadn't have been for those kinds of things, there were tree limbs and stuff. I mean, there were rocks flying. It was so windy, I mean, because we were in this area and it was easy for rocks to fly, and we were right in this cut. And as the wind was coming through that cut, we were about 9,500 feet. I mean, it was literally throwing rocks at us, small pebbles and things. So, but that was just a bad thunderstorm. That wasn't even a tornado. But to the point, though, there are a lot of ways and a lot of simple things you can do to protect yourself. And if you can't get out and you gotta stay, then at least be ready. So there's simple things that you can do. Please do them. And if you get caught off guard, then try to remember some of these little tricks that I might discuss with you. There's some really good, neat tricks that don't cost much money, and you probably got them laying around the house. So, but anyway, so be careful. Keep yourself keep yourself well lubricated. Um, there seems there. I think there are quite a few of us that are getting some weird vibes towards the end of this month. Now, I can't really tell you what it is. It seems out of place. Whatever the end of this month is going to be, it could be political, it could be uh, a- arrest being done, but there's something towards the end of this month that just seems like it's there. It's out in this future vision, if you will. Now, I like to say this, and I've learned this myself because I have been given dreams and visions and things, and that I have never spoke to anybody about, but that I've logged myself and said, "Okay, you showed me this. Now, when's it going to happen, and how did it turn out, and blah blah blah." And what I've noticed is there are some things will be like spot on. It's like dead nuts there. Whoops, can't miss it. Holy crap, I wrote this down, and 3 weeks later it happened just like I wrote it down. Okay. But it might have been the wrong time of day. Or maybe in my thinking, it was supposed to happen in a week and a half and it took 3 weeks, or vice versa. What seemed like 3 weeks in the distance actually happened in 4 days. Okay. That's what happened when I was talking. Many months ago, I did a thing about earthquakes down around Guatemala. I was given these really nasty dreams. Sure enough, earthquakes and that volcano went off and buried all them people. I saw that ahead of time. It was horrible. Now, but to other points, there were some other things that came in during that same period as far as my vision, dreams, or forward looking or whatever. And I wasn't asking, it came. It was like, here you go, Dave. Thanks a lot. But there were other things that didn't quite happen that way. Other things were like spot on. I mean, seeing the people burned in the ash flows and stuff like that in the vision that I had freaked me out. I did a video about it. So, but to the point though, it's like, oh, holy crap. Um, be careful if people say, well, I wish I could see the future. Be careful what you wish for, because sometimes what you're shown is really not very pleasant. The other side of the coin is with the visions that come of future events is the responsibility. Do I speak about this? Who do I speak to about it? And how many times have I been right? Well, in some of the things that I've predicted in my own little area here, myself that I might not do a video with, I've been too damned accurate. I'm above 80%. And that we get into scary shit territory when you get into the 80% correct. Now, but to the point though, some of these things are maybe it's the time of the day, or maybe it's like it was Guatemala, but it was 200 miles south and it happened in Nicaragua, but the thing is that the area of the world or the place or whatever that is shown to me, I have to interpret. Well, here you go. All right. So what I would rather do is say, there's some earth changes still out there, stuff in the Gulf we need to be aware of, rather than, the hurricane's going to blow up New Orleans again. Ain't going there. But there is a lot of rain in the forecast, and it's going to be in places, and it's showing up on the radars now as to what these potentials could be, and everything is turning out to be rain events. So be careful. And I keep telling people 200 feet, you need to check your elevation, find out what your elevation is where you live. There was like that 20-foot wave that hit in Indonesia, that tsunami. And people say, oh, but it was only 20 feet. Okay, well, I'm thinking to myself, I grew up in Tampa. My legs hung over the seawall when I was fishing for sea bass and other things, Okay, 20 feet. And I'm thinking, oh my God, the seawall from is about 3 feet. And then you got the thing 20 feet. Well, you know what? That the first floor of all downtown Tampa, if it comes sucked into Tampa Bay, a 20-foot wave, all the emergency room and everything at Tampa General Hospital would be underwater. Almost the first two floors, and all the people that live there that are like 3 feet above sea level, and you're going to have a 20-foot wave come through there. Are you serious? So I think to myself, oh, well, we don't ever know when something's going to happen. Storm offshore, storm surge, Tampa Bay went dry. It sucked the water out. Never thought I'd see that. But what if that water came back in plus another 10 feet? Oh, holy crap. All of downtown would be absolutely swamped with water. All along the Hillsborough River, up on the University of Tampa that sits just, upriver a little bit, but right there, oh my God, and that's just Tampa, so, and, where I grew up was only 8 feet above sea level. And when it rained real hard, all parts of our neighborhood flooded, so it's like, duh. It's still there. I'm sure they didn't fix Tampa. If anything, they just paved over more of the swampland. So there's no place for the water to go but to puddle up. So we need to be careful of this. Be aware of it. Look around your area and find out what your damn elevation is, and whether or not if you go down a dip anywhere and it starts raining a lot, that dip's going to fill full of water, and that dip's going to turn into a river. And I know I've been, my place used to flood all the time. It hasn't flooded in 5 years, which is very wrong. It used to flood 2-3 times a year, and which is normal, or used to be normal. But so I got caught in floodwaters, and I mean, I would go walk down to my river camp to make sure that everything was put up. And by the time I got down there, I'd be knee deep in water. And by the time I got back, I'd have to use my canoe to get back to the house. Okay. I mean, flood. Okay. No land visible in less than 30 minutes. And that's how quick it can flood here in my backyard when those types of rains evolve and come around. And it'll stay flooded for 5, 10 days, depending on the rainfall around it. So, but that hasn't happened in a long time. That's how dry the ground is here. But anyway, to the point though, there are places now that are saturated. And if you're not used to this normal flooding or even this, this cyclical kind of thing, it's been dry over the last few years. And people saying, well, I've never seen it flood like this before. Well, that's because it hasn't flooded like that before. This is all new. So be careful. Get yourself a kayak, get yourself an inner tube for goodness sake. I mean, seriously, them big old blow up inner tubes that you pull behind a boat or something, anything to float in or to put your stuff in. But anyway, so that's all I really wanted to report on that. Let me, Pink Angel, Rick and Delaney, hi back at you. There you are, Quartz Quantum. The roof will blow off. Hide under a table. Depends on the table. You can get crushed under a table. It's better if you try to look for an archway or something because there's a double header most of the time over most doorways. That's why they say stand in a doorway. Depends on the table. If your roof collapses, you could be trapped and killed. Just saying. If it's a really good heavy duty wooden table, go for it. If it's one of these things that are just, don't get under the table. Go look for a closet, interior room, stay away from flimsy tables, from getting underneath them. Because really, you could get killed much easier. I live down in Florida where I've seen hurricanes and tornadoes go through. And even up here in South Georgia, I've been and helped out many times with storm damage and tornado damage around here. It ain't pretty. Yep, the Pink Angel, you're absolutely right. These Walmart bags or the Dollar General, they're free. And it's amazing how much you can save just by wrapping your stuff up, just by taking one of those simple plastic bags that normally gets tossed or whatever, but you one or two of those over items, you can split them and share them and you can tie them together. It's amazing because one time I had a window get sucked out when a tornado went, literally over the house, sucked out 2 windows and the rains blew in. And so everything down here in the windows, if I had just covered it, but the thing was I didn't have any plastic bags at the time. I burned them all up and now I have extras. But if I just had those plastic bags to just put over things, I wouldn't have lost half the stuff I did because it was water damage. And it would have been easy to have just covered a staple gun, boom, 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 and I'd have had it covered up with those plastic bags in a couple of minutes, Whereas everything got blowed in, papers got sucked out anyway. When I was 41, I watched a tornado flip a tree onto a car and kill a man. That's not nice, Rick. I understand where you've been with that. I literally sat here and we watched the neighbors, and it's happened 2 times. And the tornado has went right over the house 2 times. And scary shit. Hasn't bothered the house. Dropped some really big limbs on the roof, and I got some a little bit of damage up here. But to the point, though, the roof in the old section of my house is tin. It's corrugated tin, and nothing special. But it's been on the house now for 30 years. And other than a couple of bad dents in it from the limbs get thrown out of this oak tree, I should have had more damage than this. And I've known people who their houses have had 2 roofs put on them in less time than I have my house is. And I chose tin over any kind of shingle or anything because it's more stable and lasts longer. And other than a couple of little rust spots up there, that tin's just fine. Now, it needs to be recoated and everything, but if you're going to do anything with the roof, put tin on and put it down real well. Use screws and not nails, but just saying. I'll go look at my page. The ghost of Seth Rich is on film, chilling with me. Yeah, all right, Rick. I was a camper when I was seven. A tornado engulfed us. We're in the middle of it. Nothing happened to us, but all the pop up campers got flipped upside down. You know, that's an interesting thing, Pink. Back in, it was in, I don't know, about 68. There was a hurricane went through Tampa. I can't remember the name of it, but we had a Starcraft camper and that slept, I don't know, six. So it had a pop out on either end. And me and a friend of mine, we were using it. Their family was their kids used to stay with us during their when school started because their family was on the carnival, and the kids would all come in and live with us. Anyway, we were staying in the camper, me and Billy, and the storm started to come in, and back then the radar wasn't too bad, but it and nothing like we got now, right? And they literally had to send a plane out and come back, and then they'd show us what the pictures looked like. So, but now we get updates every 5 seconds. But to the point though, so we knew there were storms in the area, and then there was something that just said, you know what, we're gonna take that camper, we're gonna bring it in because there's a lot of rain, and we put it and we dropped the top down, and like an hour and a half later, there was a big tree in the neighbor's yard that got lifted up, flipped sideways, and crashed right down where my bed would have went and crushed that poor camper. Now it was insured, blah blah blah, but that's not the point. It hit the windshield, our picture window, tore up some shingles on the house. It could have been a lot worse. So yeah, I've been there many times. Funny thing is, I can say I've been inside a tornado. Another weird thing in my life. I'm at seven. You're at 70 feet above sea level, Pink. Is that what you meant? You know what? I agree with you, Pink, because there's been a couple of times when I was outside in a storm where a mini tornado, sort of like a water spout. Well, and I've been in water spouts too. Those are scary when you're out in the Gulf or in the ocean. When them suckers comes up, you ain't got no place to run. Of course, the best thing to do is get in the water. If it's coming at your boat, dive into the water. Tie yourself. Well, maybe not tie yourself to the boat, but make sure you got your life preserver on. And I say this because there was a time back in 1971 when me and a friend of mine were sailing off of the Courtney Campbell Causeway between that and Howard Franklin Bridge there on the Tampa side of Tampa Bay. So we're out there sailing for the day and everything's fine. And late in the afternoon, one of them thunderstorms comes up. Guess what? Here comes a water spout. And I mean, it came really close to the Howard Franklin Bridge. And you could see people on the bridge stop because they thought it was going to cross over. And so it was like, oh, holy cow. So the next thing we know, we're like, well, we'll stay close to the bridge and maybe we'll have a little bit of protection. Well, we fished for a little bit and we came back out from underneath the bridge, and started back to the marina. And oh man, another one come up. And the best thing you can do is get in the water and go under. I mean, if you got no choice, get in the water. Don't stay on the craft because you're going to die. But if you hit the water and go under the water, the chances of you getting sucked up in that water spout are very slim. Just saying. Now, the other thing is I've had two tornadoes go over this house, and you talk about having just, I get what it means to be in the eye of a tornado as well. So I'm with you on that one, Pink. It's strange. There's a ridge that goes through the middle of your county, but I'm surrounded by water on all sides but the north. Well, then you know which way to go, I guess, to get out, right? I guess. We all have street signs in certain neighborhoods that are taller than normal ones that have a line that says, it will flood to this height if there's a major hurricane. Yeah, exactly. It's like, hi, everybody. It's like, oh, pay attention over here. It's like when I was out west and going through well, it was Mount Rainier and going into Seattle, and there's a really high mountain peak. They got these for anybody that's not been out there, and for me being a southerner, my early years were in Ohio, and so I'm not a stranger to snow, but I am a stranger to snow when it's 30 feet tall. It's like, so you go through this mountain pass, and we were there like in late June, and there was still snow in the pass, and it was like, they just chunked the thing out, and then there's markers on there, and they're just kind of standing up there, these flagpole kind of things, and it's like, so I asked one of the locals, "What's that?" "Oh, well, that's how high the snow gets." And I was like, "Oh shit, Donner's Pass. Ooh, okay, here we go." I was at Donner's Pass too and went through the whole thing. That was kind of creepy. The way all the trees are cut off at the same place. That's where the snow was. That's it's interesting, weird, neat, but kind of creepy at the same point. Anyway, on Friday, I showed Downtown Plaza Security a plastic bag that looked like it had unhealthy stuff in it, and I believe I did everyone a favor by doing that. Understood. Yep. All right, everybody. Mary. Hi, Mary. How are you? Hello, 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 hello. Yeah, it's been some really strange phenomena going on. And here recently, I haven't really discussed it, but since y'all are here, I'll bring it up. I've been watching the clouds a lot, as a lot of us have. All the chemtrails, all the this and that. Now, I haven't noticed chemtrails like I had seen 6 months earlier this year. And I mean, it was like, oh crap, they're good, all over the place, right? Now I wake up and there's like this overcast way up high, like they sprayed from somewhere else, and it's just slowly drifting over. But I don't see any other planes. I've seen some contrails. I mean, honest to God, contrails that disappear behind the plane, But as far as chemtrails are concerned, I haven't really seen the really nasty ones, which was like an everyday event. There was, being just north of the Florida line, it was like they were flying up and down the Florida Georgia border, because from my point of view, that's about where they'd be. I was like, what are they doing? But, they just fly back and forth across the border up there, And so I was like, well, but now here, these last couple months, since about the middle towards the end of August, but surely September and even now, I'm watching the clouds, and they're acting like clouds. I mean, there's like faces in the clouds, and instead of there just being this weird cloud that doesn't really move, it just kind of sits there. No, these are moving and morphing. It's like, holy crap. Like in 2 minutes time, I saw 4 different faces, It was cool. It was like, ooh, it went from a dog to a duck to a horse to something else. And it was like, that's what I remember in the old days. Laying outside on a blanket and watching the sky, you could see the clouds change. And I'm an old timer. I go out and lay in the yard all the time. Clouds haven't acted like that in a long time. It's like they're starting to act normal again. Normal clouds. I mean, holy crap. Down here in the South, and you can watch the thunderstorms build, literally. It heats up and this and that, and you just literally watch them get bigger and bigger and bigger. Then they start changing colors and bigger, boom, 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 and then there's a thunderstorm. Normal way. Now, that normal type thing hasn't been quite as normal as it used to be. I'm talking 20 years ago, okay, to watch a thunderstorm build. Now, however, it seems like we are getting back, at least down here, into a similar type pattern. When I look out my windows, it's like, whoa, I can literally see the clouds starting to build, coming in from the south and in from the east, which is my best vantage point from here. I'm like, the clouds are rolling in again, where before they were either there or they won't, or it was chemtrails. So there's something going on in the atmosphere, which I applaud and appreciate. At least down here, it seems like some of the chemtrails are not as bad as they were. Some of the patterns in the clouds where you can absolutely tell they're fragging the clouds, with microwaves and stuff, not as bad. And I mean, and you can tell these ripples because they're so perfectly spaced apart. I haven't seen that. Not that they haven't occurred, but I mean, in my observations, which is every day, look out my windows, I haven't seen it in the last 2 months down here as it was just in the early spring. Same location, everything. So something different's going on. Now, we could say, well, maybe this, maybe that. Well, maybe the folks who were trying to kill us all with Agenda 21 and Agenda 30, their game plan is over. Because I don't know where you live, but there just hasn't been as many planes in the sky. And I mean, I'm really glad. But again, like I say, they could be spraying so early or whatever. That's why I'm going to go outside here in a few minutes before it gets too light, see if I can see where the stars are, see if anything's moved around. But to the point, it's like, So I think Mother Earth is trying to get back to normal. What the galactics have been saying is that they're trying to put things back. Now, one of the things that I have absolutely noticed is that our atmosphere isn't as thick as it used to be. The thunderstorms that get really big now aren't as high in the sky as they used to be. I mean, they were like humongous when you looked at them off in the distance. It's hilly around here, so we go from 150 feet to 300 feet, in a course of riding into town or whatever, and there's some really nice spots looking out over a little valley or whatever, where you get a good clear view of the surrounding area and everything, and you can see the horizon and you can see the height of the clouds from a distance. And I lived here all my life, so it's like, well, okay. But now when I see the clouds out there, they're simply not as tall as they used to be on the horizon. Which if the galactics are right about this, and it seems to be so simply by these observations, that the atmosphere is more compressed. That makes sense. It really does. It all ties in. It's like, well, do you believe in the galactic stuff or not? Well, the more I keep an eye on it, the more I look, the more I make my own observations, there's a lot of correctness in this. So it makes me want to also say, well, what else is true then? Not sure. Are they going to land on the White House lawn soon? Who knows? I know that there's been a lot more observations out there in the sky by a lot of other people. And I'm going to try to stay awake until close to sunrise with my camera that's nearby somewhere and see if I can't catch any glimpses of anything twisting around in the early morning light, especially on the weekends when I don't think anybody's around. And I know there's a spot over towards the southeast where Moody Air Force Base is around Valdosta, Georgia. I've seen a lot of weird stuff that just kind of came from that direction. Also, Tallahassee, Florida is that direction to the southwest a little bit. And there's some weird stuff that just kind of pops up out of it. What's between me and Tallahassee is a bunch of swamp. And there seems to be things that just kind of pop up out of they're going straight up, ain't a helicopter. Goes straight up, sits there, goes this way, and then zooms off. Whoops. Too many times I've seen it. But it's like they're going up into the sky from down here somewhere. But and I know my area, where they should be coming up from, there ain't nothing but swamp or farms or swamp or more swamp or lots of woods, briars. So it's like, I don't know where these things are coming from, but they're straight up. And they sit there for a little bit, and then sometimes they'll go towards Jacksonville, which is that way, and Valdosta. They're kind of sort of in the same direction from here. So there's a military base at Valdosta, military base in Jacksonville, and Kingsland, St. Mary's over there where the submarine base is. So, a lot of stuff going on down here, They got the Mag Lab in Tallahassee, Florida. And I had a friend of mine that worked there, and he said they do some interesting experiments there. He goes, not like other people think, but when he started talking about it, I was like, hey, man, they got stuff in there that we just can't go, well, no, they got frozen mercury and they got, this thing. And there was this one time they had that and ceramic this. And I'm like, and you're telling me they're not doing something cool. Well, it's not like CERN, and okay, we're not going to go there, but you guys are playing with some freaky magnetic stuff down there, right? Yeah. He was the engineer and the machinist for building the things that the scientists wanted. So my friend Tom was very much involved with what was going on there at the time. Now it's been several years ago, but still cool stuff. So who knows what they're up to now? But anyway, so there's a lot of stuff down here where I live, and that is like, well, I don't know what other kind of interesting things. There doesn't seem to be any big kind of, the military base over there at Valdosta. It's mostly for training, Moody and okay. But there's like, as far as we know, nothing special, just a bunch of swamp over there. Um, so the extraterrestrial UFO type events that I've been watching, and the things I know that what's been coming out of the sky that I've seen, these are not normal meteors. I mean, from my observation, there are too many colors. Now, if you've ever sat around a campfire and thrown a piece of plastic or something in the campfire and it burns all these freaky colors and blues and greens, there's yellows and purples and colors you have never imagined. Well, that's because of the different compounds in the plastic or whatever else is in there that it burns that way. If you just burn just normal wood and stuff, the colors will be more of a yellow and a red and an orange kind of thing. Very seldom do you get into blues and greens. If you do, that's chemicals in the tree or the wood or whatever you're burning. Anyway, so as a machinist, we had to test metals, find out what was in it. The best way you did it was with a spark test. You sparked it off and saw what different colors they were, like a meteor hitting the atmosphere. Well, from my own experience with machining, the colors that I'm seeing coming in the atmosphere, these are some really odd meteors, or they're not meteors. Well, satellite came in and it did this thing. I've seen stuff that come through that looked as bad or worse than the shuttle uh, incident that happened. I'm serious. I mean, there was debris that from one end of the horizon damn near to the other of every single color you could think of, things spurting off in different directions. I mean, unbelievable colors and like explosions along the way. And you trying to tell me that was a meteor? I checked it out. I looked it up. Ain't nobody said nothing about none of them that I reported. In fact, my report never showed up. I went into the meteorite thingy and filled in all the information, time of day. I even did a little video recording of it so that I would remember. I typed it all in, sent it off, and it never showed up. And I was like, well, then what the hell did I see? Well, it was a damn big something that entered the atmosphere, blew up all over the place. But it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. So down here in the South, how many people were looking at that time of night or day? Nobody else reported it. Either that or they scrubbed it. So, and I've done this many times. It's like I see reports from other places. People type in their stuff. Dave's enter his stuff just like he's supposed to. None of mine show up. What am I seeing? Am I seeing something nobody else is seeing? I'm just saying, of course they got my name as being the crazy kid on the block down here. So, but anyway, so I know I say to everybody, you know what? I've seen so many anomalies in the sky. Ain't no way it's our stuff. And if it is, and it could be, I'm not going to put us past that. But if it is, they're popping out of the middle of the swamp around here. Now, it would make more sense if there was some other entity that was in the middle of the swamp. I don't know. Maybe they're, having fun with the crocodiles or something, the alligators. We don't have crocodiles in Georgia. Southern Florida, yes. But so I don't know. Maybe they like the swamps. You've heard of swamp gas before, but to the point. And I have seen things in the swamp themselves that are damn weird, but nothing that. Well, maybe they did take me and I didn't know. I spent 3 days on the river. I can't remember, so it's like maybe that was one of them things. There was some odd, things that I saw in in the swamp that night. Those 2 nights I was in the woods. Who knows? Um, I can't remember if the my rear end didn't hurt, so I don't think I got an anal probe. Just for that's TMI. That's too much information. I don't know. I was thinking of Carmen on South Park when he had that thing come out his ass. I was like, yeah, oh, whoa, that's too much information. But to the point though, it's like okay, with all the oddities and things I've seen, it's like things have really picked up, and so I believe there's aliens. I've had my conversations. So far, so good. Everything that I've gotten as an angel message has all been like good stuff. And none of it has been like, kill, feed me, Seymour. None of that. I want you to go kill your grandma. No, she's already dead. Then dig her up. No, nothing like that. It's all been really nice, sweet, and if anything, sort of prophetic in that we need to get ready for the transition and clarification on that. And so every 2 or 3 days, I get this little message, and they send me these little. It's like little forms in the mail to fill out. Well, what do you think about this topic, Dave? And so I go through my little mental checklist and go, well, let's see, what have we got on this subject? And then a YouTube or something, or maybe something came up over here, or a news story will prompt it. And then I get other information, and that's where I get my quote downloads from. But very seldom do I actually just here you go, here's a topic. Now I'm doing this one on the fly this morning because this is going on right now. This is like can't wait kind of thing. But it's also all the other observations that I've been making on what's going on. Also, I have a passive solar house, which I'm going to do a little video on and show the inside of my house. And I'm going to discuss passive solar to folks because nobody's speaking about it. It's like it was a really big deal back in the 70s and 80s and even early 90s. Nobody's talking about it anymore. And it's like people are building these monstrosities of houses and they're not taking advantage of anything that, Creator gave us. The sun comes up, the sun goes down. And there's a general pattern in there. And it's like right now, because we're into fall and pushing winter, the sun is lower in the windows. So now in the afternoon and early evening, I'm getting a crap load of sunlight in my house, which at the moment is a little too much because it's 90 degrees outside, 94 degrees. And so it's been pushing 90 inside the house simply because my passive solar house is I can't turn it off. I do have blinds and I can block it off, but right this time of the year, it's supposed to not be 94 degrees either. This is October. It's supposed to be in the upper 80s, not so bad. So, but anyway, I want to show what folks are missing, especially folks who want to do these little mini houses or whatever. It's like use windows. You can say, well, double pane and all this, and well, use a lot of things. Yeah. Okay, you can throw a blanket over the windows at night. There are ways that you can cover it up if you're. I have gained more out of the single pane windows that I have on my house. I've gotten more free energy from the sun simply by how I oriented my house and how many windows I put in. It all adds up to BTU and free energy. And I think people need to be reminded of that. And there are ways that you can retrofit some houses, to add very inexpensive solar heaters that you can stick out the window of your house and point them towards the south. And I mean, you can get really intense with them, or they can be very simple, and you can make them out of cardboard and some paint and glue and some plastic. I mean, it's really not that difficult. And back in the day, I was an instructor. I taught weatherization to folks, and I also taught folks how to make these simple, like a simple solar water still. If you do it right, and a piece of plywood with some hopefully just plain burlap. and you tack it out, put it on a board, blah blah blah, and you can distill your own water, and it will take most of the crap out. There's very few things that will stay in the water, but and you can also make an alcohol still the same way to power your vehicles or whatever, or to drink if you really want to. And it's all, all you got to do is point it at the sun. Very simple, low tech stuff, and you can get fancy with it. But if you're any kind of scrounger like me, stuff just pops up and like, whoa, somebody says, well, I got an old window. Well, I'm going to make it into a solar heater. Oh, how about that? Okay. So, and there are things that if the sun's going to be out there, might as well use it. And now that down here in the South, now that I'm getting into the winter kind of thing, I only lit my heater only a couple of times this last year. Now it was an experiment for me, and I was having a lot of trouble carrying wood, by the way, too. I was bad. But anyway, so I've got wood heater, and everything's groovy, got us all set up and everything. And the thing is I realized that with my house, if I closed up the house correctly, got a good day of sunshine, that the coldest my house got, I mean, it was 18 degrees outside. It was 48 in the house. And people say, oh my God, that's freezing. No, it was 48. It was damn cold, but it was 18 outside. And I didn't have a heater on. And people say, well, why didn't you do it? I wanted to see how cold the house would get without any kind of external heat. And I thought to myself, because, okay, I'm old, I'm having trouble getting wood. What if, something happened like what happened one year? Somebody came over one weekend. I had enough wood for a week and they burned it up in one night. So there I was with no wood and 4 days of 22-degree weather, which is relatively cold for down here in South Georgia. So I'm left with no wood, and what the hell? So I decided it was like, I don't have really too much of a choice. I can try to kill myself for a couple of sticks of wood, or I can lock up the house, let the sun do the work, and see how cold it gets in the house. It only got to 48. I was proud. Now I still have a lot of leaks around some windows because I've been doing some work. But anyway, but to my point, it proved to me 48 degrees is survivable versus 18 or to 22 outside. Which would I rather have? I was very toasty in the house. Lit a couple of candles, went into a small room, warmed up real nice. There was ways that I could stay warm. I just wanted to see. So on the coldest night, 48 degrees is not half bad. So just saying. So anyway, I want to discuss that. And since I've got part of my front, finally I got the concrete done, I want to do a little bit more landscaping so you don't see the pile of garbage when all the dirt and everything that I've excavated, trying to get rid of it. But when you got a bad back, it's hard to move, probably about 3,000 pounds worth of dirt, sand, and dug up stuff. So, but anyway, I'm going to go out and see if every day I try to move a wheelbarrow to a dirt. I'm not in a hurry. Would be nice to get my front porch finished with my greenhouse for the winter out on the front porch I've been working on. So, but I would like to show you all that and say, here's some simple things that I've been doing and how my house is, how an old hippie lives with passive solar, and how well my house has been, because some of my outside wood is old barn wood that I tore down old tobacco barns down here in South Georgia, and some old homes as well. And so some of the wood that I've got in my house is literally 100 years old, because these tobacco barns were built in the 20s. Guess what? We're almost in the 20s again. So I'm not lying when I say some of the wood in my house is 100 years or older, in age. So, but anyway, so let me just read down the list real quick and say, you think you were abducted 2 nights ago? My hands had a stickiness in them. My mouth was chapped on the sides. My sheets were pulled loose from the bed. I live by myself. If I'd found out that kind of thing. Now, I've noticed myself too, and I've talked to you all before. most of you anyway, about I'm asleep for 2 or 3 days and like don't know what happened. And it's like just literally I'm missing time. And this week was sort of one of them in that I mean it's Sunday morning already and it's like my brain is still thinking it's like Thursday. And I know today was Saturday, but it's like the normal things I do on Saturday, they didn't get done. I checked the chickens and I fed the cats and went out and did, but it's like time is being really spotty. Like I'll remember, and I don't know if I was awake all day or not, but I'll only remember like 30 minutes. Like, well, wait a minute. I'm sure I did something else during the day. How come there's only 30 minutes that I can remember? You know, well, crap, did I do a video? Well, that took up some time. Well, okay, at least I can account for that time. But when you go outside and you walk around and you think, I went out in the shed and I checked the boat and I checked the thing, put the battery charger up, blah, 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 whatever I'm doing around the house. And then I think to myself, but wait a minute now, was that yesterday? And then I realized, oh shit, it was the day before. Well, what happened to Friday? I don't know. Well, wait a minute, what the hell happened to Wednesday? And then so I've got this like really spotty time thing going on. And there are times when I literally like I'm sitting here and I'm going, I was going to check my YouTube or my Gmail account and see what was up. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, what time is it? Who am I? What am I? It was almost like I blinked out and then all of a sudden I was back into realization a couple of minutes later. And only if I'm really stoned does that happen. And I usually don't get really stoned when I'm sitting here doing stuff. I maybe take a hit or two, but I'm like not really like, oh my God. But the lapses in the time thing are like blips. And then it's like, wait a minute. It's like you're driving down the road and all of a sudden you realize, well, wait a minute. How did I get here? Something just happened and I don't remember. I just drove the last 2 miles and I don't remember it. Oh God, I'm at the crossroads already. It's sort of like one of those things, but I'm sitting here in the house, like reading an article or something, and all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute, where'd the article go? Wait, it's still there, and I just scroll? Oh shit, So some of this I attribute to my head bang and my traumatic brain injuries and so forth. Being an old hippie, etc. But there are sometimes it's like everything is normal, and then all of a sudden it isn't, and then all of a sudden it's normal again, and it's like, just wondering, just wondering. But then there are sometimes in those little hiccups of life, if you will, it's almost like those are the times when an angel message could come in. It could be just like a picture of something, just I'm making this up, but like a car going underneath an overpass or something, and it looks like somebody's standing on the overpass. Don't know what it means, but there's this picture, and then later on something will happen, and that little picture might morph into a thought or someone walking or whatever it might be. So I get these weird pictures all the time. And you can tell when they're weird pictures and you're supposed to pay attention because they're weird. They happen at the odd times, or you wake up and you go, what the hell was that picture? And it'll just be like, or maybe two pictures. So just saying. But to that point, and all your reptilian government videos, I've had other clues, an oily spot on my scalp. One time I woke up with a perfect round spot right on the tongue. Next day there was a blue one. New C-section scars. I don't have those, but I feel like I was pregnant. Just saying. Yeah, I hope you're okay. For real. Send prayers out to you. Anyway, you can set a trap, Pink. I would. I'd be setting me up a trap. If it was nothing more than one of those cheap little, cameras that run all night long, that you can set up, that take a picture every 2 or 3 minutes or something, or it runs real slow. It doesn't have to be very high quality. I'd be plugging that sucker in and naming it my bed or whatever. to see. And if the thing goes off and then comes back on, you'll know something went on in between the fuzzy spots. You know what I'm saying? Um, I don't feel like they hurt me, but I know they impregnate me and then they take it within 4 months. That's for shit. Did they ask your opinion? Ask your opinion. Did they ask your permission? Just saying. Um, right. Time is strange. I either lose 4 hour chunks or 7 minutes. Yeah, it's kind of odd like that. You can't sleep more than 2 to 3 hours at a time. Neither can I. That's the oddest thing. And there are times when I try to wake up and I've been asleep for 2 days, and it's like I wake up and drink 2 cups of coffee, you know, roll me a cigarette, sit here, checking the news and the weather and the, you know, Gmail, blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden it's like I can't stay awake. I've had 2 really good strong cups of coffee, nothing to, no weed or anything to smoke to like make me go back to sleep. I'm on my medicines are way down. So I take a half a Benadryl and a couple of aspirin, you know, and I roll my own tobacco or my cigarettes, I'm sitting here and take a couple of puffs. Next thing I know, I'm asleep for 4 hours, or I wake up and it's dark. And it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I don't know what the hell happened. You know, coffee's still in the cup, the cigarette burned down. There's ashes this long, in the ashtray. And I go, okay, where did I just go? How did all this just happen? Of course, there's nobody else around me, so I can't say, well, what time do you get home, dear, or something like that. I don't have anything other than I check the clocks and check what time it is and that kind of thing. I go, well, there you go. There's another day gone somewhere. Or did they take me? Now, to this thing, Pink, here's something that and to you others as well. But as far as being the abduction thing, sometimes my mouth gets a little faster than what I can keep up with. This last week, excuse me, here, let me get a drink here to calm the hiccups. Thank you very much, cold coffee. This last week, it just seemed like I was in outer space. Now, I've made a comment before that it seemed like I was sitting in a cockpit of some kind of star thing, fighter thingy, or whatever you want to call it. The layout of the dashboard, well, kind of, sort of, console, the panel, whatever, was so very familiar to me. But with all the sci-fi movies and everything I've watched and everything since I was a kid, I have never seen a layout look like that. Now, I was into video games way back, but not anything anymore. So anything that might come up and say, well, Dave, that looks like a panel of such and such a game. I'm not a gamer like that anymore. So, but this layout, and it was so real and so familiar. And it seemed like I got pulled out of the cockpit to go to the bathroom because I was like, doing my business thinking I'm in the cockpit of a flying, what the heck, where am I? And then it was like, hurry up and pee, get back to where you were. And then I was back in the dream again, flying whatever it was. And it was like, whew, that was close. I was like, what the, but this last week seems like I've been off planet. I don't have anything other than a strange feeling to say. It just seems like I've been out yonder, like it's the dual self. What's the movie? Where the um, at Avatar. Thank you very much. Somebody was thinking it. But the Avatar. So, it seems like I've been the Avatar, and another, my other self has been out very busy this last week. Now, I don't have a dime's worth of proof about that. It's just, sometimes it feels like I've been walking in the spirits. Sometimes it feels like I've been, off tending something, or it literally feels like I have literally been on another planet with another family, sitting having a picnic basket lunch near a pond lake thing. Can still smell the flowers when I wake up in this reality and go, holy crap, that was that was beyond real, you know and then be able to go back into it or be there like days later to the same location, but the sky's a little different and you got a different shirt on, but everything else is very similar. Same people, but everybody's wearing different clothes, but same location. It's like, usually if you're going to dream the same dream, usually everybody's got the same. It is the same. But in some of these dreams that I've had, and I've discussed it, it seems like I am in another reality. It seems that flipping real, So, we've been told that the timelines have been split, splattered, and otherwise being reconstructed and put back together again. So that could be, there's still some residual out there. But now they say that the timelines have been fixed. Now, I would beg to differ because of some of this weird stuff going on. But at the same time, it could be that we are starting to phase in and out more into the fourth dimension. We're phasing out of the third, and it's just not me, but other people are seeing it too. But I don't think they're looking like I'm looking at things like, oh, that was weird. They just don't think about it. I look at things and go, that's an anomaly. That's not normal. I look out the window all the time and there's like never weird shit walking by my window. But when it does, I take note and go, that's strange. Okay. And I try to my best in my world to disprove it. Okay. I don't want to tell you about something. I want to prove it to myself. Was that just a fantasy? Was that just an eye flicker? But then when I do my little checking and go, wait a minute, that's between here and there, and the window's clean, and blah, blah, blah. Something strange. So, um, is there something going on? I think so. And, I think there are some of us who've been chatting about it, in that in our avatar bodies, we are part of the solution up there. We'll see. I can't prove it, but in all the things that I've been doing, seeing, and otherwise experiencing, some of these experiences that I feel bodily, no harm, but I do feel like I've been another place, and it's not been on the planet, whatever it is, you know. And now there have been reports that there are a lot of us who have been taken off world in our basically in our sleep, but that we've been taken off world to go to school as part of the transition to go into fourth. And for those of us who have been doing due diligence and trying to keep our frequencies in a good spot, that that in so many words, because we're on the red road, because we've already done these things, it's like we stuck up our hand and said, okay, I'm ready. And not everybody's feeling that. Now, like I said, I can't prove a dime of this other than this feels different, you know, and all the other stuff and everything I've looked at over the years. And I'm like, well, I've felt weird with things, but they didn't fit. It didn't fit a pattern. It was just weird, you know. Now it's like the reoccurring dream, and it's really similar in the feeling of being out there, like 2 or 3 days in a row. And I go out. I mean, I'm always looking up outside, but there are times when it's like, oh man, I gotta like stagger to the door and look up, and I'm like standing outside going, why am I standing here looking up at the sky? Oh, I want to see where the clouds were or whatever. But then I realize it's like something motivated me to go to the door to look out right now versus I'll go in a minute when I get coffee. No, it's like I gotta go to the door, look out. You know, there's a weirdness in that, you know. Well, I'll look out the door and I'll walk outside when I go get coffee. I'll feed the cats and do, you know, nah, this is gotta go to the door, gotta see outside, gotta look at the clouds now. Okay. So I know things are being weird. It's going to be really, 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 really interesting. Um, Pink, I really wish you had some weed too. I wish I could share with you. Um, what about deja vu? Missing time and lots of info. Yep. Hi, Mary. Yes. Oh, how do you set a trap? A trap can be done electronically in a lot of different ways. You could set up a motion detector in your house, like the one you buy for outside, and stick it with a different kind of light, or you can actually put in one of those screw in electrical things, and you could have a buzzer go off. So if anything moved across it, and they're very effective because I had some here in the house years ago, and they were picking up entities. Yeah, the lights were coming on. I was like, "Well, that's freaky. There ain't nothing there." But then some, I had one. That'll be another story. But to the point, though, sometimes motion detectors will pick these things up. So either a light can come on, and you can put them in your room. You know, there are, like just set up a video cam and just put it on low res and let it run all night. Or for those times where you think that you might something might be going on. Get a black light, for example, and put a camera on so that there's light in the room, but there's not light in the room. But the black light, and I mean a for real black light, uh, it's got the purple stuff that, but the real black light, not the fakey ones, not the screw-in bulbs. They don't give you the right frequency. You got to get the get an under counter one kind of thing, like for Halloween or whatever. But they things will show up under a black light that won't show up under different colors of lights. And when you've got a camera aimed at that, that's sort of a trap. Now there are other things you could do for a trap. Depending on the entity, if it's an evil type of entity, put cast iron around you. I don't, put steel around you, nails. A bed of nails, honestly, wouldn't be bad because certain entities simply can't stand steel. All right. It goes way back. Okay. Why wrought iron fences around graveyards? To keep the evil spirits out or to keep them in, depending. But so, anyway, that if you're still here on this, I'm late in the chat. But if you're still here, Pink, try that. They say those 4 hour chunks, it could be we went home for 5 years. Pink, that's absolutely true. I don't think it's that much time in my case. It could be, but I do think that there's like a day in the other world versus I've been asleep for 3 hours or 4 hours here. It's mostly 3 to 4 hour chunks for me. I very seldom sleep more than 4 hours. Never. It's aggravating. Yeah, right. Wanting to go right back to bed. Absolutely. Whatever it is. It's like, I am so flippin' tired. And there's no reason. I take my vitamins, I drink my coffee. I'm not on anything to make me feel sleepy. I fight to stay awake. And, I used to think that it was narcolepsy, which it was. But, I'm not any of those medicines that made me sleepy. So, like right now, it's 5:41 in the morning. I'm like frickin' wide awake. Why can't I do this at 10 o'clock in the morning? Anyway. And I might be this, wired up and awake at 10 in the morning. And then an hour and a half later, I'm like dead and not wake up for 2 days. Nothing makes any sense. 3 days in a row, I went back into the same dream every time I slept. Different stuff happened, but at the same setting. That's what I'm talking about, Pink. That's what I'm talking about. Same setting, but folks had a plaid shirt on, or a red shirt, or a green shirt, or no shirt. I mean, strange. But I kept getting messages as I was waking up that I was healing relationships, fixing my life, and helping other people get along. So it was all good. Yeah, there's, which is interesting to your point. None of the dreams that I've been somewhere else have I come back with any kind of dread. It's like wherever I've been in this other family or some of these other places. Now, when I have come from outer space, sometimes I feel like I just come out of a frickin' heavy duty, sure enough, barroom brawl fight. I mean, it's almost like I can still smell the smoke on me from the zapping in the air or whatever. Which is kind of weird, like an electrical short, stinky, whoa, wire crap, whoa, yuck, makes my stomach turn just thinking about it. But to that point, though, it's like I don't get much other than like I've been somewhere out there and that whatever it was like pretty damned hairy. But when I get back to here, it's like, you know, it's it's a tired tension. Now I've never been to war, but I've been into some very extreme circumstances. So I've been shot at, but not in a war setting. I've been chased by the law, all kinds of different things. So I, although I've not been to war in this life, when I get back out of some of these dreams, I feel like I just come back from war. I mean, the smell of the gunpowder, and we used to have all kinds of cannons and things that we made blowing off. There's something about the smell of gunpowder after it's been fired from a small cannon. Just something about it. Anyway, but so it's like you can still smell the residue on you, and it's like I've not noticed any blood, but I've got bruises on places on my leg, on my arm. I had like, okay, I got a thing on my arm. All right. But then the next day, then there's like a big lump on my wrist. Like, wait a minute, where have I been that there's a lump on my wrist? And it doesn't really hurt, but there's a lump on my wrist. And then the next day it's gone. Like, wait a minute. Number one, how'd to get there? What was it? And then I go to sleep and wake back up, and it's like, now there's just a little tiny red spot. Some bitch, the lump's gone. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, I try to debunk everything on my own, on in my own life too, because it's like I want to try to make sure that whatever I'm seeing, but at the same time, I got to mention some of this stuff because it really is kind of odd, and it's like, well, we're having this conversation right now, so it's like, well, what's to say we we aren't batty? You know what I mean, Pink? Same thing with you, Quartz. Exactly. It's. I'm not sure that when I say that I feel like I have been abducted, that it's actually an abduction. I think I'm taking off somewhere, but it's not like anything pokey thingy, something like other people have had. It seems like my abductions or that I have gone somewhere for a particular reason. Well, I guess if you're being abducted and being experimented on, you got a reason too. But it's more like I'm going to a meeting or something, or something. It's hard to describe. Now there were times earlier on in my life that I had scars that there was just absolutely no freaking way whatever was. I mean, I literally picked out a device out of my leg back in the early 80s. Honest to God, before I knew anything about implants, I thought it was a pencil lead, and I went through the whole 9 yards. I dug it out. I mean, I got drunk, stoned, and and took a razor blade to my leg with a pair of tweezers and a what do you call them, forceps thingies, roach clip things, Anyway, and when I after this thing, and shortly thereafter, the house burned down and I lost it. But it was this little rice kind of thing in my right thigh. Well, I'm sorry, in my right calf. And I got drunk and dug that some bitch out. I thought it was a piece of lead. And it hurt me and it quit and it kept moving around on me. And then I hadn't thought about that for a long time. And then I was watching John Lear, I think it was. Wait a minute, John Lear. There was the doctor who did all the, that took some of the implants out of folks, and they went through the whole thing, right? And it was like, son of a bitch, that's exactly what that thing looked like that I dug out of my leg. Oh, holy crap. And this is way back before anybody. And I can't prove diddly squat except that I know I did it. There's probably a scar on my leg where I dug it out. Because I mean, I poked around. I was bleeding all over the bed. I was drunk and high. Who cared? But I was bound and determined to get it out because I thought it was a piece of lead and I didn't want to get lead poisoning. That was the reason I dug it out. Just saying. I can tell people when I feel the shift. Yeah, I bet you. You're right, quartz quantum. It is one of those things either you believe or not. Well, I try to tell myself I don't believe this. But at the same time, here within these last 2 years of my life, it's been, they have contacted me while I was awake. And they've said, chill out, Dave. Things are going on, and here, listen to this, and you'll get more information. And here, let's take you down this road a little bit, and let's show you. Oh, by the way, let's show you a few orbs. Oh, by the way, when I was in Ohio and all those sphere beings showed up, I mean, it was like, you talk about whoa, and it wasn't the sphere being alliance of the mother folks, but I got pictures of my blue sphere beings, and it's like, okay, here we are, everything's groovy, okie doke. So they have been showing things to me, as well as, I mean, physically showing with pictures and videos and stuff, and these things that ain't comets, that are being blown up in the atmosphere, and all the UFO stuff I've seen. They're showing me this to prove to me myself, and I shared this with you. Just hey, here you go. But to the point though, it's like the more I see this stuff, and the more that you and I and the rest of us communicate, we're not flipping crazy. Something's going on. Now, can I prove I'm from Pleiades? No, but there sure is a long ass, set of events in my life that suggests that I am from there, or I got relatives from there. But I can't prove it except circumstantial evidence for 60 years, really, for 60 years. Because I started noticing Pleiades when I was 6, 7 years old, long before I knew what any of that stuff was. So, and it was a fascination. I would wake up in the middle of the night in the wintertime, and look out the window and know exactly, like, there it is. And I would sit and stare at this thing for hours. I would wake up with my head still on the windowsill like this, going, how long have I been asleep here? How did I get here? I mean, just really strange things. So as a child, I seriously wonder, looking back at my life in Tampa and all the strange things of waking up in the middle of the night and looking out the window and staring at, Pleiades and going, crap, have they been like taking me off all this time? I don't know. I know that I've been shown a lot of stuff and I've spoke about it and I'll continue to speak on it, but I don't know. Just saying. Some of this goes along with other people, and some of it's just absolutely like, what the hell are you people talking about? Stuff that they try to sell me, if you will, with their stories, makes no sense to me at all. Maybe it does to them and to other people, but it's like in my world, it doesn't sit here. You know what I'm saying? Whatever I'm taking in, whatever they're selling, and I'm like listening. I want to listen to you. And if there's anything in there that hits on with me, I'll absorb it, take it in, or whatever. And here lately, it seems like some of these folks are just, and I mean the well-known folks, if you will, are trying to sell us a bill of goods that don't make any freaking sense whatsoever. And it's like, oh, but they're talking to these beings. Show me a picture. I can show you pictures of the beings that spoke to me. Can you show me pictures? No? Well, never mind. I mean, I got my proof. Where's yours? These are the beings that spoke to me. Just saying. So, I, it just sounds like gobbledy babbledy gook, and it's just like, I'd rather us have a chat here late at night, early morning, and go, "Hey, y'all, what's going on in your world?" It's one of those things. Yeah, I already been there. You swear that paranormal stuff happens when we dream. Well, those of us who are at least open to it, we do. The astral plane is there all the time, and there are some of us who've been very busy. I would venture to say. Um, Pink says I also had settings changed in my phone in the last several days. Sometimes they move apps to different screens. I've got an app that popped up on this Chromebook here that I've got. I don't remember downloading. I mean, I'm just like, what? And then and at nighttime, I close the lid, it shuts itself off, blah, blah. And then I get up in the morning and I check, go through the thingies, scroll through the mail, look at the news, blah, blah, blah. And I noticed and I was like, wait a minute, where down here at the bottom where the Chrome button thingy is, when the last application that you use shows up first on the left hand side, right? So I lift it up and I'm like, I'm bored. I'm gonna play a game of mahjong, and I go down. I lift it up and I go down there and let's see if it's still there. It's this Amazon story thing, and I'm like, what? Where did this app come from? I thought I deleted it because it wouldn't work offline. And I'm like, sometimes if I'm writing a story or something, I don't want to have to be connected to the internet all the time. I might want to sit in the yard and just type. And, so some of these apps refuse to work offline. And I'm like, no, bye, you're gone. But anyway, but here's this app. I have not opened this app. I've not used this app, but guess where it is? It's first in line. Meaning somebody, something had that app open and working, because the last app I used on this computer was Mahjong. And it's like third. And I'm like, wait a minute, two other applications were, who the frick's been on my computer? Ain't nobody here but us, So I agree with you. Things are being weird on the computer too. And the clocks have been off again. Don't know what that thing was. You never knew about steel. Yeah. It's cast iron, old steel versus like stainless steel. Now, stainless steel will work, but it's got more chrome and other things in it. Whereas cast iron has got that old crunchy, like sleep with a cast iron skillet. Think Ma Kettle. Come in here, aliens. I'm going to whop the shit out of you with a 6-inch, with my 6-inch cast iron pot pan thing. Ma and Pa Kettle. Yeah, think of that one. Yeah. And now they are learning forgiveness and they are healing and being redeemed. Yes, some are. Being tired recently for no damn reason. And I mean, like, come on. I mean, I've said my prayers going, y'all got to help me out today. Because, I mean, I went out to the chicken pen the other day with a dead chicken. I'm like, where'd this come from? What killed it? And how many days has it been since I fed? Oh, shit. I couldn't tell you. It happened between Thursday and yesterday. I don't know. So anyway, yep. You've had 3 videos play themselves at 3 a.m. There's some strange things going on. And all I got to say is, we need to keep our shirts on, need to keep our hats on, need to keep our stuff together. And, it's nice chatting with all of you and sharing these things because, I'm just this whacked out old guy down here in the country. But to the point, though, it's like, it's not so much that I'm whacked out. It's that I've become very observant to all things in all realms. So I got a butt cramp and old man's got to pee. And it's been 2 hours, by the way, y'all. And I want to go check the stars before it gets too light. So I send you my love from my heart, soul, and my soul's heart to you. I send you love, honor, respect, blessings to every single one of you. I ask you, please, to just share that, share the love, share the kindness, share a smile, share a handshake. Whatever we do, everything that we do with each other and for each other is spreading this love. It's getting done. The changes are here. I think each one of us, even with some of the nasty things that are going on, I think every one of us, at least here in this chat, can see a positive change happening, even with all the crap going on. And the more that we don't focus on their chaos, the more success is being handled. And I see it. It's a little slow, but it's there. It's happening. We are making a difference. So, another good thing is let's focus for tomorrow. Let's keep pushing our intent on peace for tomorrow, peace the next day. Let's push it forward. And remember that we wish to walk forward on this red road of enlightenment. If we're walking backwards, if we have to keep looking over our shoulder to find out where the light is, turn around. I love you all. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone. I put my glasses down, so I can't read it. My little glasses in there. So much love from me to you all. Be safe. Be kind to everybody. Have a great Sunday, and we'll talk to you soon. I'm going to pee on the floor if I don't shut up. So bye, everybody.